Very well. Thank you, Mr. Gupta, for the introduction. And first to Mr. Garg, Dr. Garg, thank you for inviting me all the way from Norway to India to speak at this conference. When I saw the animation and the video from the blowout that Dixit made, it reminded me that recently in Europe there was a terrorist attack on the Nord Stream 2 pipeline coming in from Russia to Europe. So that means that call it accidents can occur even if you have a double pipeline. If someone wants to hit your infrastructure, it can be done, and that's things that we can solve or discuss here, because there are monitoring solutions and also solution to work on if you have a massive oil spill coming up. Then what Dixit said, what we can do from satellites, it's all complementary. And I realized that when Dixit, when you told the audience about how you do things, and then I realized that we are 100% complementary because we do the early monitoring using satellites. Anyway, enough. My name is Borre Pedersen. I'm a sales director at KSAT from Tromsø in Norway. I will talk to you about satellites, and it's not wrong, it's right. I'm in the right forum. We use satellites for oil spill detection, even though it's 800 kilometers above us. In my presentation, I will introduce you a little bit to KSAT and then to how we do global oil spill monitoring from satellites, and also to tell you we have done some demos around India, and I will show you some examples of how it looks like around India. KSAT, we connect space and Earth. We are working with all the satellite companies in the world. Of course, ISRO from India, with NASA, with ESA, most of the commercial companies. So we are very well connected with the space industry. We have a headquarters in Tromsø in Norway. The aurora in the background on the picture, it's real. It's not fake. It's taken from it's a cable car just above the city center. So if you want to see a nice aurora, this is the time of year to come. We have plenty of room, a little fewer hotels. We are partly government owned, so that means that people and companies that we work with, they can trust us, because we are not venture capitalists. We don't run away with money. We are here to stay. The company is 55 years old. So we've been working with satellites, and the last 25 years we have specialized in oil spill monitoring using different satellites, mostly radar satellites, what I normally call SAR. So if you hear the name SAR, that's synthetic aperture radar. We have 3 business areas, ground station network. I will show you a map of where we are located. I'm working in the Earth observation in the middle, and then we have government programs working more on the defense side. So this picture here, just to illustrate, we have, with ISRO, we support ISRO, your space organization, when they launch the satellite. When the satellites are in orbit, we receive the data from ISRO and distribute it back to India because of our network. I will show you a map of the network. So that was just a little intro to stuff or work we do in India, and we have been working with ISRO for 20 years now, so this is a long-term relationship we have with that company, and now with more Private companies coming into space in India. We are also teaming up. My friend Bala Reddy back here from Assista, they will also be our partner in India when it comes to this job that I will explain to you about now, meaning how to do oil spill detection. So the intro to our oil service. The dots you see on this map here, this is where we have built up special antennas to receive satellite data. We started this expansion in 2009. Now we are on 27 locations globally, and everything is owned and operated by KSAT. So that means that we decide who to serve, when to serve it. When we sign contracts with someone, we will also be fully responsible. We cannot hide behind someone else. So this network of ground stations, that enables this functionality. That means that with all the SAR satellites on the market today, again, SAR is radar, we hope to conclude in a month or maybe shorter with RESAT from India. All the other ones are fully operational, so we can provide services from 16 to 17 different radar satellites. So if someone asked me to monitor the coast of India, I can do so every day. Most days I can do it in the morning, in the afternoon with several satellites. So the capabilities from satellites to do monitoring over India is fantastic. So this, the term fast delivery up here, I will explain it later, but that means that if I have a satellite coming over the coast of India, I will be able to send you the result, the processed, analyzed result on a PDF or GIS layer within 1 hour after that satellite has flown over, for example, Mumbai or on Chennai or any coastal area of India. So it's the flying time of the satellite is what will cause most of the delay. But as mentioned earlier on the presentation, there is a motivation to do monitoring for oil spills. We have a long experience, but SAR-based or satellite-based monitoring cost very little compared to doing the same area with aircrafts or with vessels. In Europe, in Scandinavian waters, we have combined satellites with aircrafts. How do you do that? Because the satellite, I will know exactly when the satellite is coming. I will also know exactly when I have the result from that satellite. And then combining it with, for example, vessels or aircrafts that do surveillance in the area. The Coast Guard or the authority here in India or the receiving party of the information, they can call the captain on the vessel or on the aircraft saying, we have an oil spill in this area or in that area. So instead of just flying around, because one satellite image covers 500 times 500 kilometers, and then you can take 2 of them or 3 of them in a row, and that means that you cover 1,500 kilometers north-south and 500 kilometers wide. So within 1 hour, you can tell exactly if something is happening. And that is money saved and much more efficient operation. So we, of course, being a Norwegian company, we started out in Norway because we have developed these algorithms inside of Norway. In Norway, so this have developed over time. Today, in Norway, all the operators, there is a mandatory requirement from the government to monitor all producing oil rigs every day. The oil producers, they selected satellites as the tool because the cost and the reliability of satellites. So instead of leaving that monitoring to vessels which have a narrow view, you can use, all the rig operators in Norway use the same satellite solution from KSAT. And we do it on every rig every day. And in Norway it was a mandatory requirement for daily monitoring. I'm glad that our satellite solution was the best one for the operators. We have also worked, we are working globally. We have a lot of attention in Europe, and EMSA, which is the European Maritime Safety Agency, they awarded KSAT with a contract recently, and with the EMSA contract, we have a big job in Europe. As you see, there are some small numbers here. So KSAT will cover, have contracted to cover all these areas. It's EMSA is sitting in Lisbon in Portugal, and they are deciding, they're telling KSAT, where shall you focus today and tomorrow and next week? And then we go to the satellite owners and tell them, tomorrow I need you to take a picture of the Mediterranean. The day after I can do on the Canary Islands or other places in Europe, around UK. But that's up to EMSA to decide, because they have a full maritime picture. They know everything that's going on in the European waters, from all the vessels sailing, any kind of oil spills. They have full control of the activities. EMSA is very hard on the requirement, because they need the information from KSAT 20 minutes after we have started to downlink the information from the satellite to our antenna. EMSA said, give it to me in 20 minutes or I don't want it. So, and when they don't want, they don't pay, and that's bad for business. So that EMSA has been one of the drivers why we can today deliver the information to EMSA. I can deliver it to ISRO or to India in very short time. As you can see, we have 400 reports to EMSA every month. Just an example, we work with Australia, and with Australia we deliver information in just under 1 hour. So we deliver timely information to our contracted customers. We have a few of them, of course, so this is just an example of what kind of customers do we have. We have oil companies. Some oil companies come to us and say, can you please help us monitor our rigs? And we do it because it is a cost, but it's not a very high cost compared to having vessels or people 24/7. We have organizations like AMOSC, NOFO, and others. So there's a combination of governmental organizations and oil companies that is buying our services. Again, the picture to the left is from the SAR radar satellite. To the right, same area, same time, using optical. And it's very visible here why we rely on SAR data, because we can see through the clouds. And with the optical, we don't. I just need to show you this picture. It's from our ground station at 78 degrees north. It's a perfect location because we can receive data from satellite every 100 minutes, and this is a unique location. ISRO from India have used it since 2004. I used to work there for 5 years. It's only 1,200 kilometers from the North Pole, so it can be pretty cold. Anyway, so the oil spill monitoring, what effect can we deliver to the industry? If it's a spill, I think Dixit, you told everything about what happens when and if a spill occurs, because it affects sea life, coral reefs, mangroves, everything. And if it's nearby a nice beach, it affects people's swimming habit as well. But when you do as an operator and you know that you are clean, you can also use this the satellite data to show that I am clean. I am operating according to the regulations. The oil that comes from the area, it could be natural seeps, because that will occur from satellites. We can see it from satellite as well. Some areas have a lot of natural seeps. The Gulf of Mexico is just one example, and it will be, you cannot stop it, but it will be very wrong to blame the operator for something is coming from the seabed. And we have trained algorithms to distinguish between a natural seep and a man-made seep. So it's fairly easy. The number of sensors is on the left. And then in the middle, the information when no oil is detected, which is most of the cases, we still send the report and just to say there is no oil here today. If there is oil, then you will go to the second line in the middle, and you have a lot of reporting, and the distribution to that is on the right side. It's very streamlined information, very easy to open. I showed it to my friend Bala earlier, and you can, I will show it also to you later. You have the location, you have the size, and I also will give you an example of some oil spills we found on the west coast of India. So this is just an example of how many satellites or images I can take over India in a little more than 1 week. And to illustrate, my colleague made a little animation here. When I start this, you will see that the satellite is flying, taking an image, and then we fast forward. The satellite will fly over the continent and start downlinking the data to our big ground station on Svalbard. The timeline on top is true. That collection started yesterday. It was at 12:40. 12:55, the data was already downloaded in our Svalbard station. So that means that 13:05, we should have the report ready. So back to the reporting. This is how it looks. It's very human readable. You don't need to be a trained oil expert or a GIS expert. We distribute it in PDF on either FTP or email or both. If it's a spill, we can send you a text message or a WhatsApp. What you see is a area where we all know where we are monitoring, so you will recognize this area. If we see an oil spill, we will tell you size, width, and the number of spills we see. So this is an example from the west coast of India from November 19 this year. We saw 4 oil spills. The basic information is in the column to the right. And then we did another example on December 4, which I think was Sunday. So this oil spill that you see on the top right occurred, we saw that on this Sunday. The size is approximately 24 square kilometers. It's 13 kilometers long and 3 kilometers wide. And then, but we don't have any place to send this report. We just did it to show you here at the conference how a satellite-based oil spill monitoring can be done. And this is how we do it today. And this is early warning, and it goes, I would say, 100% together with Dixit and his team in your company, because we can tell you before you see it yourself. It's very sensitive. So if you have 20 liters of oil on the water, we can see it. We don't need gallons and thousands of liters. So on the sea state, if that is right, 20 liter and up, the satellite will see it. And then we have worked on additional tooling here. So we can use the radar satellite to tell you where is the thicker part of the oil spill. Because if you have a team if you have a big oil spill, then you guys want to know, where should I go? I can tell you when we do a secondary processing that this area or the area to the west or east or north or south, that's where the thicker part is. We also combine it with optical satellites, so you can have two sources on the same information, meaning that it will give you confidence that what I tell you is correct. So what we do then with you also had a drift model, Dixit. So we also use the same thing on our oil spill reporting, because when you work with radar satellites, you can also extract the surface wind, and so if you have an oil spill and the wind, then you will have a lot of information to make a drift model, as you can see here. So this is a drift or an oil spill that we had, and then we applied the drift model to it. It wasn't there was a very thin layer of oil, but it was the model showed that it's correct. I mean, it is working, and the model is different. I think you mentioned it, Dixit, that there are different types of oil around the world. I mean, you have light crude oil, you have heavy crude oil. So our drift model takes that into account when we see that, okay, if you're applying a drift model to India, we will use the Indian oil model and not the from the Northern Sea, which is probably different. I'm not an oil expert, but I know that this is how they do it. And lately, and I will conclude my presentation just to tell you a little bit about the. I was on a couple of conferences earlier this year, and now methane monitoring is becoming more and more important, especially when you do on refineries and offshore rigs. So we have that is also a part of our oil spill, or the service to the oil industry, I should say. Because we can, over a certain area, we can program certain satellites, so I can monitor your facility to have the methane emission. And is it important? Yes, it is, because methane is probably the worst gas that we can emit into the atmosphere. And the second thing is that if you plan to mitigate your methane emission or to reduce it, then you will have something to compare with. So if I do a monitoring tomorrow and if you start to do something that will reduce your emission, you can ask me to monitor again and again and again, and then you will see and you have a proof that what you are doing is actually working. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes my presentation. Thank you for attention.